Hi, fifth graders. How are you today? Have you ever been on a vacation that just did not seem like a vacation once you got there? What were some of the reasons it didn't seem like a vacation? Yeah, maybe it wasn't as fun as you thought it would be. I went on a vacation and got so sunburned one time. It was not fun. But, hmm, I wonder if that's what's going to be happening in our story. Remember, at first it appeared some of the family members were thinking it was going to be a vacation. I'm thinking they may have changed their minds just a little. Let's see what we focus on today and then get started and find out what happens in the text. Today, our learning intentions are we are going to learn to compare and contrast two or more characters, settings, or events in a story. We're going to do this by using specific details from the story, and we will be successful when we discuss those similarities and differences. That sounds really familiar, doesn't it? Another one is we're going to learn to better understand the plot and how characters impact the sequence of events. We will determine this. We will do this by determining how characters cause events to happen. We will be successful when we have completed a cause and effect chart and discuss our results. Another thing we're going to be working on is learning to determine the meaning and then use academic words specific to a text and or the content area. Today, we will be defining those words by using context clues. We will use academic words in the right context, and that's how we will know we are successful. This will be the cause and effect chart we complete today. Let's review and focus on the Walpole family. Oliver made them a pile of food, but Mr. Walpole leaves it unguarded. I wrote that in the cause box. Mr. Walpole leaves the food pile unguarded. So now let's think. How did that impact the events in the story? If you remember, the animals ate the food that the Walpoles had, and now the Walpoles were hungry. As we read, let's look for more causes and effects related to the Walpoles, especially Oliver. Let's look at our assigned vocabulary, but don't forget, good readers look for other words that they may not know also and identify their meaning. Write down your words in your journal, and as we read, think about how you could use the word in a good sentence that makes sense. And also, don't forget to ask questions. Let's look at our words. Murky, gloomy, dirty. Murk is the root word. It means gloom and darkness. Hmm. The suffix with the hyphen y, well, when you add the y to the end of a root word, and it means that it changes the word to the quality of what the root word was. So when we had murk, we added y to it, which made it murky, which meant the quality of murk, which is gloom and darkness. So we could say gloomy and dirty. All right, got a question for you. Have you ever squished your toes in mud? Do you remember how it felt all gooey? And when you pulled your foot up, it did this funny noise. That is what squelchy makes me think of. Let's read the definition. Squelchy, mud, damp, goo. Squelch is the root word, adding the suffix y. Squelch means to fall or to crush, to silence, or to emit or moving with a sucking sound. Oh, that's what we were talking about earlier, right? Remember pulling it out of the mud? Yep, squelch. The quality of squelch would be squelchy. Good job. Okay, you see, we have comfort zones. Yeah. I want you to close your eyes and picture in your mind The best place you love to be. Did you think of it? When you are there, what is it like? It's probably calm and still, refreshing, quiet. You might even have your PJs on. I could tell you where mine would be. You've probably figured it out. It would be relaxing on the water, hopefully a Florida beach somewhere. Um, well, we could all have different comfort places, but it's some place that makes us feel safe and comfortable, right? hmm And that's what comfort zones means. However, and the zones would mean plural, more than one. However, you'll notice that I have a Venn diagram here, right? Well, a lot of times we are challenged to go outside our comfort zones in order to accomplish greater things. So, this Venn diagram with comfort zone here in one circle shows us the challenges in life might overlap our comfort zone a little, but mostly it happens outside our comfort zone and where we are comfortable. That means sometimes we have to be bold and we have to be strong and we have to persevere. Doing those things is really never a comfortable place, but we know that's what we have to do to accomplish something, right? Yeah, I wonder how comfort zone is going to be used, in the word in the text washed up. I bet you figured it out. I wonder if the Walpole's, Mrs. Walpole, I think, has a comfort zone, don't you? Wonder what you think it is. Let's go on. The Garcias' palm roof had collapsed every one of the 15 nights they had spent on the island, interrupting any weak dreams they might have managed. There was no rope left to rebuild it with either. Gabriella sighed. The other contestants were in larger groups, with more hands to find food and build shelter. What she forgot, though, was that more hands also meant more mouths to feed. Breakfast? Asked her father. The fire was still burning. Mangrove wood produced so much more heat than an ordinary campfire. I'm going to stop for just a minute because I want you to think about hmm, what did the Garcias make their roof out of? That's right, it was palm fronds or the leaves from the coconut palm trees, right? Why do you think it kept collapsing? Hmm. And how does the narrator show that Gabriella is frustrated? How do you know this? Use text evidence. Write your answers down, pause the video. We're going to go on. Oh, I forgot a word. Let's go back. Right here. Her father was trying hard to sound cheerful, but Gabriella was certain the pain in his ankle had kept him awake last night. It looked terrible. No thanks, I'll pass, she said, scratching at the sand fly bites on her arms. She couldn't bear the thought of any more coconut. I'll explore further today, Dad, and maybe the tide will bring in something we can use. So, are the Garcias struggling? They are. Do you remember the other day when we were talking about the possible themes? We had said that maybe it could be that parents don't always deal with challenges. And we also said that maybe the theme is that kids are smarter than some people give them credit for. Hmm. Do you think those are still possible themes? Let's keep reading. Stuck in a town where nothing ever happened. Gabriella couldn't count the number of times she dreamed of being on the move, but as she waited away, she heard her father groan in pain. Gabriella wished they were back home. How long could they stay put without food? So, what are some challenges the Garcias are facing? How are those challenges similar or different to what we've read about the Walpoles? The air stank of salt water and rotting wood. The tree limbs were covered with barnacles as sharp as knives, and the black mud weighed down Gabriella's feet. It was slow going, and somewhere in these murky depths, she knew there was a saltwater crocodile or perhaps a sea snake. Suddenly, something wrapped itself around her ankles. Oh my. Wonder what it is. If you'll notice, the word murky is being used on this page. I want you to pause the video and go back and reread the text. Use the context clues and the definitions we had about murky. And how do you know that? I want you to think about how is it used here? Write down the page number and or slide, and then next to the word write murky in your journal so that you can refer back to it when you have to write your own sentence. Let's go on. It was just a plastic bag. The tide had brought in bottles and cartons, scraps and shreds. Did people give any thought to where their garbage ended up? Gabriella wondered. Or how one what person's wasted could be another person's windfall? I want you to notice that I underlined a couple of words that you may not be familiar with. I want you to go up to barnacles for just a minute. It said the tree limbs were covered with barnacles as sharp as knives, and the black mud weighed down Gabriella's feet. You'll notice that she was in salt water, right? Barnacles are like shells and rock that have attached to things, and they kind of grow on it, and it can damage the tree, or if it's on a boat, it can damage the boat. Those barnacles have to be scraped off. Another one is windfall, but this time I'm not going to tell you what it means, but I am going to say it's not the wind falling down. So I want you to read around the word windfall and figure out what you think it might means, and then write your definition in your sentence. Excuse me, in your journal, and then talk to your teacher later and see if she agrees with your answer. Good discussion will be happening there, and that's what good readers and good thinkers do. Let's go on. Gabriella's eyes fell upon a dented kitchen pan, snagged in the mangled mesh. She perched on the roots and eased her hand toward it, and then suddenly the sound of squelchy footsteps made her freeze. It was a soft, sly sound. There again! Gabriella's hairs were on end now. She was being watched. She craned her neck, and through the thick labyrinth of roots, she could see what could it be? A chain link fence? But she was interrupted by the squelch again. Oh no, guys, what's happening? I don't think this is a plastic bag. What are some descriptions that tell you Gabriella is scared or nervous? Yes, she began hearing footsteps. What about another detail? That's correct. Her hairs were standing on up on end now. Wait a minute, does that mean this? Oh, no, it doesn't mean her hairs are standing up like that. I'm sorry. You're right. It's figurative language, but sometimes when I'm afraid, I feel like the hairs on my arms stand up. Good job. What do you think she hears? Let's keep reading and find out. Come out if you dare, she shouted, sounding braver than she felt. And from a small opening in the fence, Oliver emerged. Was your prediction right? Oh my. Tense, tense, tense. Let's keep reading. There he is. The Luz had escaped the windswept tundra. Oh, guys, what's happened? That's right. The palm leaf told us there was a change in setting. So now we're not with Gabriella and Oliver. We're back with the Luz. The Luz had escaped the windswept tundra and were trudging downhill determinedly. They were out of water and conversation when Shen cried out, "Look!" What had caught Shen's eye was a flash of orange in the distance. He kept his eyes on it more than 10 minutes, and it didn't move. But the others only had eyes for the heart lifting sight of mist hanging like a veil over a tree covered valley. Cloud forest! Gasped May. Tall ferns fanned out, tangled vines wound their way around moss clad tree trunks, drops of water nestled in the axils of leaves and trembled on leaf tips. Everything was wet. But after their thirst was quenched came a burning hunger and a bone aching cold. I'm going to stop right there and I want you to come back up here. What does this tell us happened? But after their thirst was quenched. It's just another way to say what? They got some water to drink. That's right. Remember, Mrs. Lou had used up all the water to wash your hands, right? So they needed water and they got some. That was very exciting for them. It was just interesting how the author had put that instead of they drank some water after their thirst was quenched. Quenched means stopped. Good long. Good job. Good job. Let's go on. We'll start right here. Mr. Lou rushed into a cave only to be driven out by a colony of bats. Mrs. Lou picked a mushroom, but then Shen made her throw it away. Wild mushrooms in the cloud forest were probably deadlier than snakes. I wonder why Mrs. Lou was going, what she was going to do with that mushroom. How do you know that? Would you have run out of the cave like Mr. Lou? Yeah, I'm not sure I would have stayed there either. I'm not really particularly fond of bats, and it was their home I would be invading. Hmm. Hmm. Let's go on. So, what do you see? Is this illustration similar or different to the text describing what they saw? And how do you know? Down in the cloud forest, it rained every evening, and even though they had kept their matches dry, the wood was soaked. For 3 days, they lived on orchids and other forest flowers, but the fern fronds they'd picked needed to be boiled first. After 3 freezing nights, Shen knew what he had to do. He must find dry kindling for the fire and food. But first, he would retrace his steps to the flash of orange that he had seen the day they had first stumbled upon the cloud forest. So, I have several questions for you based on this. Where are the Lus? And what challenges and benefits does the setting offer them? Did they find food? What kind of food were they eating? And I also wanted to know as I was reading, because good readers ask questions, it said the fern fronds they picked needed to be boiled first. I wonder how they knew that those fronds had to be boiled before they could eat them. Sounds like somebody knew what they were doing. I wonder who that was. Probably. Let's go on. It took some walking, but Shen is who we're reading about, but he found it eventually. It was no bird or forest creature, and that was to be expected. After all, it hadn't moved. But what he hadn't expected was to find an orange harness strung upon a steel zip line that appeared into the forest canopy. Was that for him? Shin shrugged into the harness and fastened it to the cable. He looked up at the flying cameras overing, hovering overhead and bit his lip. There was only one way to find out. What is Shin planning on doing? Why does he think it's going to be safe? Would you do it? I have zip-lined before, but I don't know if I would be that brave. Hmm, let's go on. Oh my. So at the end of the day 15, all our competitors have stepped out of their comfort zones, trilled Berry Blue in a yellow sarong with butterflies on it. But is that wise? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, we are being left with a cliffhanger. That is figuratively, not literally, meaning we don't get to find out. Not literally. It means we don't get to find out what's happening with Shin until we read on. That's cliffhanger. It does not mean we're hanging from a cliff. So what do you think? What do you think Shin's gonna do? Are the families all facing some challenges they don't know how to deal with? Are they dealing with them? Let's go on. Go back to our causes and effects. Let's look at the analysis portion of the lesson. We discussed earlier that Mr. Walpole left the food unguarded. Because he left the pile of food unguarded, the effect was they are now hungry because the animals ate their food. So, as we read, what kinds of things did you notice about Oliver and some causes and effects? So, what I'm going to ask you to do is you may either go back and reuse the video and pause and start, or you may use the slideshow. You may also go on to ReadyGen and use the text from ReadyGen. Don't forget, you'll be going through your Clever portal to get to ReadyGen. What I want you to do is think about how you would complete this, thinking about Oliver especially. I would like for you to complete at least two more causes and the effects they cause to occur. Your challenge today is to write a statement as to how these characters' actions lean toward a theme. Your next assignment is to use the vocabulary words in good sentences and to answer these three questions. So, your vocabulary words are murky, squelchy, and comfort zone. Then you need to write in your journal your answer to the questions below. Where is Gabriella, and what challenges or benefits does the setting offer her? How does Gabriella cause or impact the events that happen to her? And why do you think the author chose to make the children of each family so important in impacting the sequence of events? I want to thank you, fifth graders, for doing your best. You're great students, and I know you can do this. Do your best, persevere, don't give up, get out of your comfort zone because you've got this. I'm so happy for you guys because you are such great hard workers. I'll see you next time.